Well, I think that is really fun. And I think also budget is obviously an issue. When people are doing drapery design, it's more expensive than some of the other things they might even have in their room.
Absolutely.
So tell me some of the budget kinds of treatments you've designed for people, and then take us to the other extreme
Okay.
and tell us some of the really elaborate ones and give us some ideas of what those budgets might be from one end to the other.
Okay. Stationary side panels with the wonderful rod works very well. It looks as if they could close if you have enough fullness, but you're not spending all the money and the expense on the fabric to actually have them close. So that's where you'd have a hard line item behind there to do the light control and so forth. So that would be on the more moderate end. Then you can get up into do roaming shades and mixing some fabrics and maybe adding some trims or something to maybe some balances. And Roman shades, I've done some recently out of sheer fabrics, and it has just turned out fantastic. It's not as tailored as the Hunter Douglas type products, so that was also quite cost effective. Every layer is going to add another expense, so you can figure it's going to be about $200 per foot per layer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good budget number. I've never really heard anybody use that as a number.
Right.
And I think that varies. So what is the high end? What is the most expensive you've seen?
400, 500 a foot per
Wow.
layer. Yes.
Now that's just per foot of fabricated product?
Correct.
Okay.
And that includes the installation, the rods, the lining, interlining. I always interline everything. The interline will take you from fine to fantastic. So
Absolutely.
it adds a lot.
Well, in fact, I've used a product, I don't know if you use this one, called Bump.
Yes.
Okay. Bump is more of an English expression for that, more of a felted material.
Right.
And it is amazing. And if you use that in a silk, that
Yes.
creates the most amazing feel.
Yeah.
And the
It's
weight.
indescribable almost,
It
doesn't it,
is.
until you actually
It is.
experience it.
But it's worth it.
Yes.
It's worth that extra expense. It's kind of like having a really good rug pad.
Right.
And if that's a really great rug pad, you can have an inexpensive carpeting, but it actually feels really good.
Exactly.
So that, wouldn't you think that's one of your best tips?
Absolutely. It's all those fabulous imitated silks that are out of the polyester and the nylon. Though they are doing such a beautiful job with those, and once they're lined and interlined, they're spectacular. And they can be $25 a yard. So, yeah, very important.
So what are some of your other tricks? I think you just mentioned that one, which is a great one, using Bump. What else would you suggest?
I have noticed all the builders from the street appeal, they're using the darker window frames, and I've seen so many white linings just pressed up against these beautiful, beautiful homes here in our area, and it takes away from the exterior. So I think using a khaki lining makes all the difference, and it gives you a breath so you're not distracted from the exterior.
That's a really great suggestion, because I do agree with you that happens a lot. And here's another little one that I've thought about too, is if you have a two-story house, or even if you have quite a few windows across the front plane of your house, you really want all of those windows to have the same kind of look on the outside of the street.
Absolutely.
And if they don't have that, then it's very distracting from the house itself. So
Right.
it's something to think about.
Right, right.
Tell me another trick. We're not going to share all of her tricks, but we'll have a few.
Another trick.
How about working with a workroom? How do you get them to do what you want when you want it?
They are very independent by
Yes,
nature.
they are.
Yes. So, well, I think the illustrations are helpful. I think it's helpful also when you go into, you don't want to meet with the workroom and explain all the details a month before they're even going to start on this. You want to have an appointment, if you can get it from them, an idea of when they're going to be ready to start it. That way they're not calling you and asking you 42 questions you've already answered in the last hour, in the last month. So I think that is pretty critical, that if you can work that timing. I think to maybe entice them with a little lunch or something too, could always get the job done.
A little chocolates.
Yeah.
We've done that before.
Right.
Whatever it takes. I think that the workrooms are so critical to the result that you get.
Yeah.
And I have to share a little story.
Sure.
This one is a really funny story. It's not about the workroom, but it's about an experience that I had with draperies. And this is probably, I'm going to say 12 years ago. I did a project for a client, and I had ordered a cutting for approval. And this is when I was by myself. I didn't have any employees. And this just happened to be a huge job. It was about a $15,000 room of draperies.
Wow.
So this was the over draperies, the shears, the under shade, the hardware, the tiebacks, the trim, all these things. So we had all these custom trims, and I got the cutting in, and I just about fell over. It was the wrong color.
Oh God.
I had missed by a digit specifying the right color, and so I was thinking, oh, thank God I got a cutting, because if I hadn't, I would have ended up buying about $15,000 of draperies. So that was probably my biggest
Right.
story that I could share with you. That was
Wow.
a crazy, scary one. Have you ever had anything happen like that?
No, because I tend to micromanage my fabrics, that I have them shipped directly to my workroom, actually to me, and then I inspect them before I drop them off. Because I never know for sure what they're really going to be sending. So, and even with the CFA. So I like to really walk the whole process through.
I don't blame you. We all have to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
I can tell you I've done quite a few of those things over the years.